Hello everyone, this is R.S. Miller at the endtimenews.org, and today is August 6, 2012. Here's an advisory for anyone who eats Kellogg's all-brown bran flakes plain from Japan. It's being reported that this particular brand of cereal, with an expiration date of May 2013, has been contaminated with radioactive cesium. The report states that the cereal contains 8.95 becquerels per kilogram of cesium-134 and 10.76 becquerels per kilogram of cesium-137 for a combined total of 19.71 becquerels per kilogram. Again, the Kellogg's all-brown bran flakes plain from Japan with an expiration date of May 2013 has been contaminated with radiation and should not be eaten. Extreme heat wave dooms millions of fish across the American Midwest. Thousands, perhaps millions of various types of fish, some endangered, have died in the Midwest as summer record temperatures dry up rivers and raise water temperatures in some spots to nearly 100 degrees. About 40,000 shovel-nosed sturgeon were killed in Iowa last week as the water reached 97 degrees. Meanwhile, Nebraska fishery officials said they've seen thousands of dead sturgeon, catfish, carp, and other species, including the endangered Pelid sturgeon, in the lower Platte River. An Illinois biologist said the hot weather has killed tens of thousands of large and smallmouth bass and channel catfish and is threatening the population of the greater red horsefish, a state endangered species. So many fish died in Illinois' Powhatan Lake 2 weeks ago that the carcasses clogged an intake screen near a power plant. A spokesman for the coal-fired plant said workers shut down one of its 2 generators for several hours because of the low water levels at the lake, which is used for cooling. We're talking hundreds of thousands killed, maybe millions by now, said Dan Stevenson, a biologist with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. If you're only talking about game fish, it's probably in the thousands. But for all fish, it's probably in the millions if you look at it statewide. Now there's more to this article, and I'll give you guys the link to come up and check it out for yourselves. Drought in the U.S. taking its toll on farmers and global food market. In Des Moines, Iowa, following a rainless July along with daily temperatures reaching 95 to 105 degrees Fahrenheit, farmers in Iowa are now anticipating a harvest of just 70 to 80 bushels for every acre of cornfield. This is a far cry from the previous average of 180 to 220 bushels an acre. They are hoping for rain to come this month, which is the most crucial time for soybean pods to be. The crops really need moisture and rain, otherwise the flowers will dry up. The Midwest state of Iowa is considered as a God-chosen farming area where additional government investment in irrigation is rarely required. Prior to the ongoing drought, the state has witnessed 5 consecutive years of favorable weather and 24 straight years without drought. Iowa Agriculture Secretary Bill Northey said the state only has approximately 0.5 or 1% of its agricultural land irrigated, which means it is largely dependent on rainfall, which comes every year. Today, 42 out of the 99 counties in the state are in dire need of rain. The same grim scenario is prevailing in 1,410 counties across 31 other states throughout the U.S. According to the latest report by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the figure represents 50.3% of the entire land of the country, a record proportion which was virtually unheard of in over half a century. Iowa is not the hardest hit area, but it has a significant effect on the global food market. Dubbed as the food capital of the world, Iowa sits on the Corn Belt and leads the U.S. in terms of production of corn and soybeans. It is also a key producer of beef, pork, and chicken. Each year, Iowa exports about $7 billion worth of agricultural products to China. About 50% of these products are soybeans, while the rest include beef, corn, and pork. Now, looking at the map here, these brown areas that you see over a large portion of the U.S. are droughts that are persisting or going to intensify. And the areas, the brown areas with the green, are ongoing droughts with a little signs of improvement. The green are likely to improve, like over here and here. And then the yellow is likely, a drought is likely to develop in these areas here. Now I want to show you guys something here. These are the Hawaiian Islands, a tropical paradise, a place that gets lots of rain, lots of moisture. That's how the tropical flowers are able to continue growing. But just look at this. This is one of the keys here. And of course, as I said earlier, it's a drought that's going to persist or intensify. And look at that right there on all of the islands over here. Now, in other news, some people believe that because Israel has nuclear weapons, Iran should also be allowed to obtain them. But the truth is this: Israel has never threatened any other nation with annihilation, although they themselves are continuously threatened by Iran. This following article is just one of the many threats issued by the leadership of Iran. Iran, we must annihilate Zionist regime. Providing further evidence that its end goal, whether through nuclear weapons or other means, is the destruction of Israel, Iran's president last week insisted that the annihilation of the Zionist regime is a mission of global importance. Any freedom lover and justice seeker in the world must do its best for the annihilation of the Zionist regime in order to pave the path for the establishment of justice and freedom in the world, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was quoted as telling a gathering of ambassadors from Islamic countries in Tehran. Ahmadinejad went on to claim that the Zionists have been controlling world events for the past 400 years. Anti-Defamation League Director Abraham Foxman called it Ahmadinejad's most comprehensive anti-Semitic speech yet. And Washington Post columnist Colbert King warned that the Islamic Republic of Iran is the greatest threat to Jews to emerge in the past 70 years. King continued, I do, as a non-Jew, recognize vicious anti-Semitism when I see it. The Iranian government is as anti-Semitic as the Third Reich. It is because of that virulent hatred for Zionism, Israel, and the Jews in general, that Israel has been so strongly urging the world to take the Iranian nuclear threat more seriously. And while some will argue that, as president, Ahmadinejad doesn't have the final say in Iran, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu cautioned that Iran's true leadership is even more dangerous. Iran's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is not a rational leader. Just like the leader of North Korea, they are unpredictable. Israel's Channel 2 News quoted Netanyahu as telling a recent closed-door meeting of his cabinet. Netanyahu reportedly went on to explain that while he has no desire to go to war with Iran, he is forced to believe that the religious-fueled hatred expressed by both Ahmadinejad and Khomeini will result in them eschewing the pragmatism Western commentators speak of and launching nuclear weapons at Israel. Egypt sends helicopter gunships to hunt jihad terrorists. Egypt locks the barn for the global jihad terrorist who killed 17 Egyptian border soldiers and tried to attack Israel on Sunday night. Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist gangs, Bedouin terrorists and drug smugglers, and terrorists from Gaza have turned the Sinai into a jihad nest, particularly since the latter stages of the Mubarak regime and the ensuing vacuum left by the provisional military government. Egypt said the price for its lack of control in the area Sunday night, losing 17 men in a well-planned terrorist attack that set off the alarm bells in Cairo. Egyptians are furious at the government for ignoring Israeli intelligence warning of an imminent attack. The anger is also aimed at Hamas, whose control of Gaza has been challenged by Islamic Jihad and other terrorists. Mubarak cooperated closely with Islamic movement such as Mohammed Morsi's Muslim Brotherhood, whose leaders often voiced hostility towards the Jewish state. Egypt's military, which still holds many levers of power in the most populous Arab nation, called the attackers infidels and said it had been patient until now in the face of instability in Sinai. But there is a red line, and passing it is not acceptable. Egyptians will not wait for long to see a reaction to this event, it said in a statement on its Facebook page. Morsi had agreed to open the Gaza border at Rafah in return for Hamas's promises to secure the border there, but after the attack, Egypt announced it was closing its border crossing into Gaza indefinitely. Now, there's more to this article, and I'll put a link in the box below.
In Syria, the government's reportedly massing tens of thousands of troops and columns of tanks around the commercial capital, Aleppo. Fighting between rebels and loyalists has been raging inside the city for a week, and activists fear a massive blitzkrieg-style assault by the regime is about to begin. The entrenched insurgents claim they control more than half of Aleppo's districts. The government's already pushed the last rebel forces from the capital, Damascus, after 3 weeks of fighting there. As both sides rally reinforcements, large numbers of Al-Qaeda-linked fighters are reportedly bolstering the opposition's ranks, and these groups are being supported by the U.S., despite their extreme views and intentions, as Gainet Shikana reports.
Al-Qaeda has infiltrated into the Syrian opposition forces, and its power there is growing. I spoke with one of America's leading experts on counterterrorism, and he told me that Al-Qaeda has effectively exploited the revolutions in the region. They're well armed, having looted Gaddafi's arms stockpile, and they're now taking advantage of the crisis in Syria.
6 months from now, they could be, if not the major force in the opposition, a blocking force in the opposition.
Concerns about the growing Al-Qaeda presence in Syria are well echoed here in Washington, but right now it's used more as an argument to justify a foreign intervention. The reality is that the U.S. has already intervened. It has just come to light that President Obama reportedly signed a secret order earlier this year authorizing the CIA and other agencies to provide support to the rebels in Syria.
We are experiencing climate change that brings with it the expectation of catastrophic weather. Increased earthquake and volcanic activity, mass fish and animal die-offs, monstrous solar flares, wars and rumors of wars. We have certain parts of the world being deluged with devastating floods, while other parts are experiencing extreme drought conditions. Even the state of Hawaii is experiencing drought. These are the last days. What's coming on the earth from here until Jesus returns is going to be the most horrific events in all of human history. As a matter of fact, if it weren't for the Lord's soon return, then none of us would survive the onslaught of devastation after devastation, catastrophe after catastrophe, and war after war. Currently, major world powers are maneuvering for political and economic dominance in the Middle East. This fight is as much about power and oil as it is the establishment of peace. However, there is a coming time when just the basic necessities of food and water will be reason enough for nations to go to war, even global wars. The Bible prophesies that in these last days, the earth will be hit with a massive asteroid. In Revelation 8:8, it reads, "Then the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and 1/3 of the living creatures in the sea died, and 1/3 of the ships were destroyed. When this event takes place, food and fresh water are going to become real scarce. There will be a lot of people dying of starvation, more violence, killing, and stealing, even within the so-called civilized countries. Once the average individual's very existence is threatened, they will go into survival mode, and you can kiss being civil goodbye. When it comes to a choice between starving to death or taking what one needs to survive, is there any doubt what most people would do? The end results will be a total breakdown of society. This planet is about to become the worst place imaginable with the exception of hell. It is time for people to wake up and see those things that are coming upon the earth. The only hope that any of us have is in Jesus Christ. Are you saved? Follow the link below and pray the prayer of salvation with a sincere heart, and you will be saved. It is my prayer that God bless each and every one of you with ears to hear, eyes to see, and a heart to receive. In Jesus' name, amen.